Northern Ireland's Ronan and Malta's Ryan. We have got a fair few representatives from on the continent, whether it be Malta or France or Ireland. Ronan with a very, very impressive opening break. He almost looks surprised about it himself, although that poker face of his doesn't usually give too much away. You can be very, very pleased with this break, no matter who you are, let alone someone who historically has been known for having a, well, for it being the weakest part of his all-round excellent game. That was a hell of a break, great split, and a great chance to get going for the two-time world champion.
You kind of run out of good things to say about him, don't you? I mean, when he won the first of those 2 world titles a couple of years ago, everyone was saying fitting for the career he's had, great performance. Fast forward a couple of years, I mean, he, to be blunt, was not one of the favourites coming into this year's event. You could have seen him having a decent run, but even having won the previous title, I don't think you'd really have said he was very likely to add a second one. And he'll be pleased with the manner he did it as well, because it wasn't like the draw sort of opened up. I mean, in the final, he played a level that we've barely seen in a final before. It was incredible.
I mean, it was remarkable. I think if you were, you know, truly quite miserable as a person, you could probably make an argument that when Ronan won it in Killarney in Ireland, there was an absence of what some might consider the top players and all the rest of it. It was inverted commas, I need to stress that because I don't agree with it, but an easier year, as if that diminishes the achievement somewhat. But well, those people aren't talking anymore, because this year was as loaded a year as we've seen in a long, long time. I mean, I know you've been covering the World Championship for years and years, Mark, and you're quite right. The actual final itself, and we have to put in our obligatory apology here for Carl Sutton, because we do sadly have to keep talking about it, which of course is quite sore for him. But as Ryan Pisani breaks off in frame 2, very nice break as well from the Maltese. But Ronan's opinion, I think, was generally based on, well, you know, I'm not a huge practicer anymore, I don't get a huge amount of table time, but at the World Championships you're there for a fortnight. You're going to play quite a lot of pool. And he was essentially just almost like a marathon runner, just getting fitter and fitter and fitter and fitter until the big event came, and he was in perfect form. And worth pointing out again that his opponent was also in perfect form. Carl Sutton didn't make a mistake in a world final. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, you really have got a feel for Carl, because he got to that previous world final 8 years back against Sean Chipperfield and came up short there. And again, he's just been hit by another great performance. I mean, he played world champion standard, like he could have won that.
Well, they both did, didn't they? Ultimately, it was a remarkable level. And as we often talk about, you mentioned earlier, the sort of the clash of eras and the golden generation and all the rest of it, but you know, the golden generation didn't put up finals like that. It was astonishing. As I just caught Tony Holgate in the corner of the room look up when I said golden generation, as if he's a part of that. he's now giving me another gesture, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, worth pointing that out, because all those great finals, you know, your Melling Pots, your Hills, that amazing era between sort of 99 and 2006, when it was show-stopping every single year. Granted, the conditions and stuff were different and all the rest of it, but we didn't see finals like this.
No, and it was the fact that they were both playing well. I mean, there was a string of finals where Mick won titles 3, 4, 5 and 6 in the years before COVID, where a number of times in commentary I was almost thinking, am I overdoing this? Because I was kept saying how well he was playing, and he was, but it wasn't maybe quite the same depth of field at that point, although there were a lot of good players. I mean, basically, as we all know, coming through any big field tournament, you always play well, and if you come out of the final, it just happened that this year was so special because there were 2 players just played the best pool of their lives, and obviously one of them had to lose, which was a harsh result. As we get back to this match, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Ronan continues. When he won that title in 22, it was part of a real purple period. Won the Players' Championship on Ultimate Pool, an event incidentally which he hadn't qualified for the finals, and it was a last-minute substitute, and then that seemed to kickstart a crazy run.
You know, blessed to cover a lot of different sports with what I do, but I can't think of many more incredible stories than what Ronan's put together in the last couple of years.
And it has an appeal outside the sport. A lot of friends were asking me how the event went that aren't pool players, and it wouldn't have meant anything regardless of what name I'd said won it. But when you explain the backstory of the career Ronan's had, and then to win these 2 titles, it's just a great story on a human level.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And he's in again. That soft cut break was a bit softer this time around, I thought. Didn't crunch them as much as he did the first time, but still gets a ball, still gets a good split. Oh, he's going to be very unlucky if he goes in off here. He hasn't. Has he got a shot, though? I think he can snick one into the middle. It's not ideal, but he's still there.
Just so experienced. Always seems to know the right shot. It's not too bad a pot. The ball right in the centre of the table goes to the right centre.
Make sure all phones are switched to silent, please.
Just pushes it wide, though. Big task this for Ryan Pisani, although he's one of the up-and-coming players. Ultimate Pool Pro now. Had a good season last year to earn that pro status. And nice, obviously, to see the European representation. That's the name of this tournament. The Maltese support has been phenomenal from the start of Ultimate Pool. We've seen some great players.
Yeah, and worth also pointing out that they have their own Ultimate Pool Malta events as well, which, from what I see on social media, are really flying in the country. You know, loads of really good players playing in those. And yeah, the good flag Ultimate flies around the globe.
Malta's just a country with such a proud key sports heritage. Some sports just seem to catch imagination in particular culture. They just love their pool and snooker, going right back to the days of Tony Drago. Maltese Joe was one of the top pool players in the mid-80s. Really started the boom that's ultimately led to Ultimate Pool. Ryan Pisani, you can see, always looks enthusiastic to be here. He's obviously very proud, and rightly so, of what he's achieved. And he looks like someone that there's more to come. You feel like as he settles down into life as a pro, we could see him get better and better.
Yeah, he's put in some performances this year. I mean, he did brilliantly at the British Open. I think a semi-final in that event, if memory serves. And, you know, he's one of a very long list of players who are capable on their day of putting it all together. And I think for Ryan, it's just about maybe doing that a little bit more often. And that's so much easier said than done. But just sort of elevating that C game and that B game. His A game's brilliant. Very, very fine player. Just like that, I've put the curse on him, but that was a very, very difficult shot. I mean, you had a perfect camera angle there to see how tight that was. He didn't miss that red by much.
Yeah, I mean, you almost question from that angle whether the ball even went. A very small gap to get through. That consistency is such a thing, isn't it? There's so many players with a good A game. It's whether you can turn up with it on a regular basis. I think in different ways this tournament's going to be pretty good for both of these guys. Ronan, on that logic you were outlining earlier, is going to like the fact that this is a sort of warm-up practice, a bit like the World Championships when he was playing team events and lots of other events. Get his arm going. The group stage kind of does that for him. For someone like Ryan, he's not a pro that's necessarily going to win 5 matches in a row in a straight Pro Series event, but this time he knows he gets 5 games straight off and a great chance to qualify for the 6th in the knockout phase.
Yeah, and I think for a player like Ronan, you know, he talks about the way he built himself into the World Championships. Great tournament for him in that sense. You know, gets to find a bit of form and rhythm and momentum. It's not going to work for everyone because, of course, if you're off form and you can't find it, you're still going to be off form and you're going to struggle to win the tournament. But you can sort of build your way into a tournament like this. There's a little bit of lesser jeopardy at the start will give you that space to do so, as opposed to coming into straight knockouts or even double a limb.
Well, some people just have a level of patience as well. They like to be around a long tournament. I think that will suit Ronan. He's one of the most enthusiastic pool fans. You often see him watching matches when he's not playing, which isn't always the case with all the players. Some of them, when they get knocked out, they're done with it, they go home. Or if they're at the venue, they're away doing something else. He looks like he's always happy to be around the place. So Ryan breaking off in the 4th frame. Decent break, potted a ball, but also added the cue ball. It was straight in, it wasn't kicked off, so that was his mistake. And this is a nice layout. Look at where these reds are. Not a great deal to do at the best of times. Ball in hand means he can get after any ball that he finds a bit tricky straight away. Normally these are the kind of positions where Ronan's deadly. Being able to clear up from routine positions with 100% consistency is actually a surprisingly important skill, and one that's sometimes a bit overlooked. You just know that if you give him this kind of chance, he doesn't let it slip very often. All of these players will be playing most of their matches out on the outside table. 96 players entered this event, 16 groups of 6. We're showing selected highlights on this main arena table in the group stages. And obviously we'll see more and more on this main table as we start the knockout phase tomorrow night. And this has been steady from Ronan. It wasn't a difficult chance by any means, but you've still got to take it. Well, in off break from Ryan Pisani proved costly. Unfortunately for him, he'd broken so nicely that he'd left an absolute dot-to-dot finish.
One of my favourite ultimate pool moments in a while actually concerned Ronan, and just that thing as he breaks dry here and gives Ryan the chance to go. And that was, you might have seen it, Mark, the Pairs Cup recently, a couple of weeks ago, where Ronan was involved. He and Declan were put out by Bradford's junior and senior, and it was when young Cohen, all 15 years of him, took on Ronan in an individual frame, and Ronan was delivering a masterclass in bait, and Cohen took him on, took down a glorious finish, really, really beautifully done. And when he went to give Ronan a little fist bump at the end, you could see from the camera angle as he made the 8-ball run, acknowledged it, smiled, and gave him a little twinkle of the eye and a shake of the hand. And I just thought that was a really lovely moment. Because how often do you get that from Ronan, good or bad? You don't usually get anything. He's like one of those Easter Island sculptures.
Yeah, I think the fact he's won these 2 world titles has probably helped him to sort of almost loosen up and enjoy his pool even more. I mean,
yeah, maybe.
You see him off the table, he always has a lot of fun with the Irish lads, as we've been saying. But I mean, he deserves to celebrate, doesn't he? What an achievement to win what he has. And it's sort of nice when you come to tournaments in the follow-up of a win like that. Everyone does want to talk to you. Everyone wants to beat you. That Pairs Cup makes for some very entertaining viewing, because you obviously get a real mix of pairs. It's up to people how they choose to arrange their own pairings. Sometimes people play with teammates, friends, family. You get a real mix of different combinations going.
And speaking of young Cohen Bradford, by the way, he is in the European Open. He is in group number 2. He has currently played 2 and won 2. The 2 players he's beat, both ultimate pool professionals. He's beaten Simon Fitzsimmons by 6 frames to 2 and Josh Juhas by 6 frames to 4. I'm telling you right now, Mark, that kid is going to be an absolute star.
When we were waiting for a match to start earlier, I saw somebody ask him how he'd done in his first match against Si Fitzsimmons, and he said, yeah, won 6-2. Just so matter of fact, it was like he was expecting to have won, just gave the scoreline. He's
a real talent. I said this at the time on the Pairs Cup. it's not so much how he plays the game, because there's a lot of sort of mercurial talents who can cue the ball really well and make great pots and all the rest of it that sort of come through at a young age. But what you tend to see is, as Ronan comes back to the table, is what you tend to see is they tend to be quite streaky and you know, a little bit hot and cold. You know, also temperament-wise, it's the age where, for very good reason, youngsters often don't have the best temperament. And the biggest compliment I could pay to Cohen, he plays like Ronan McCarthy, in the sense of he gives absolutely nothing, plays the right shot, and just does the right thing. And 15-year-olds just don't do that. And that's why he stands out so much to me. And of course he cues the ball beautifully. He makes good pots. His patterns can only improve because he's not even left school yet. So, you know, I think for that reason alone, I think he's got such a bright future, and it's because of the you know, the old head on young shoulders, if you like.
Yeah, that temperament's the thing you really can't teach, isn't it? Sometimes you can coach the technical skills, but knowing how to go about a match and knowing how to just go about your life generally, and the commitment to practice and play the game the right way. Well, it turns out if we thought he was going to be the youngest player in the event, we were wrong with Teddy White, stolen the crown by a full 6 years. Going to be watching those results with a lot of interest.
Have to get a crash built at players at this rate. Ryan's going to try and squeeze this in, does so well. It's a lovely shot, acknowledged by Ronan in his chair. It's a really nice shot there from Ryan up to the top left a moment ago, cued it beautifully.
Yeah, this has actually been good from Ryan. He's made a couple of little early mistakes, but he seems to have really got himself together nicely in this frame.
Yeah, not often you come out of a tactical exchange with Ronan McCarthy on the right side. Got to play some good stuff to do that, and that's what Ryan's done here.
That's much better from Ryan. Gets himself firmly into this match now, just a single frame behind.
One thing we haven't mentioned, I don't think, this evening is it might seem that there's not much jeopardy for the top players in terms of... What a break that is by Ryan, by the way. But yeah, it might not seem like there's loads of jeopardy for the top players here, because, you know, for the on-paper best players in their group, 4 go through, only 2 go out. You might be thinking, well, you know, they can afford to coast and maybe drop a match or 2 here and there. But fairly important, I would suggest, for the best players to really sort of knuckle down and finish top of the group, because the way the competition is lining up for the 64 is those who finish in first position will line up against those who finished in 4th, and the seconds will play the thirds. And put it this way, you do not want to finish 4th, I think, because I suspect you will run into some pretty horrendous draws, because there's some very, very good players in this competition who will finish top of their groups.
I was just talking to Chris Day about this after he won his match and was top of his table. He said he'd had a bit of a look at the draw and was realising that it wasn't as simple as the winners of one group played the winners of another. The groups are all sort of mixed around. It's a kind of random draw, but with the first v 4th concept. He said you start thinking about, you know, that group looks stronger than that one, and then he said to himself, I shouldn't be thinking like this, just get out there, win as many matches. You just can't second guess.
Well, we spoke about this earlier, didn't we? And we did say at the time, the players will definitely be looking, and there we go, some confirmation that indeed they do just keep an eye on it. But yeah, Chris is right, you can't afford to overthink that, because, you know, you can only control what you can control ultimately, but there will be some favourable draws, and, well, with the way that certain players are playing, there are certain players you want to avoid.
Yeah, I like the fact that it is drawn like that, because it means that there is a lot to play for. Finishing top of your group is almost always going to be a good thing. Obviously there's going to be some rogue draws, but should guarantee you an easier next round, and rightly so, because you're going to have worked very hard to top the group.
Yeah, I can't imagine there'll be too many pros who finish 4th in their groups. It would require a couple of sort of quite rogue results, really, against the form book for that to happen. But there are a couple of quite tasty groups where you're almost guaranteed to get a very good player in that 4th spot. some good draws. Is Ronan tempted to go for this? He was. Oh no. Make my apologies. I thought he was. He absolutely wasn't. What I love about this is that we're still on open table. It's a fascinating little tactical exchange, this. They've both been chipping away, trying to force the other one to go first.
These aren't easy tactical games to play either when the table's completely open and there's balls over the pockets. See the position he's in. If he's going to leave it safe, he's going to have to play a well-controlled shot.
I'm not sure how safe that looks.
No, you can see at least one red and one yellow, so if he wants to go for it, he absolutely can here.
And the issue there was Ronan was quite clever, and he wasn't exactly really tight on the cushion, but he was close enough, and it meant Ryan couldn't dig into the bottom of the cue ball to get to return the favour, essentially. That was the only thing that was going to save him there, really.
You're always scared as well when you're playing those kind of shots where if you screw back too hard, you put too much pace into the object ball and then that flies back down the table and disturbs stuff. Ryan was trying to keep everything tight, but as you can see, it hasn't worked. Quite a key frame this, because if Ronan can go 4-2 up, he's going to be in pole position in this race to 6. Good example of how to just keep the game very simple. Pretty hard to think of many clearances Ronan goes for where he's chasing difficult patterns around the table. He always just seems to bide his time and then manufacture a chance where he's confident or very confident of getting out from there.
Well, he sees the game to a brilliant level.
It's a really hard thing to teach. Again, the technical fundamentals are probably the easiest thing to teach, albeit not an easy thing to master. There's just vision of the game. Always just seems to play the right shot.
Yeah, economy of movement with the cue ball as well is a big feature of Ronan's play. Always has been. Told the story before, but when I was but a young, sprightly man, which I'm absolutely not anymore, and first started covering English 8-ball, a wise old head by the name of Simon Webb said, "Watch this fella and you'll understand the game." Just getting those opportunities has been difficult enough. But you always do feel that Ronan's break will just eventually give you a little bit of something.
Yeah, I think if you had to look for a weakness in his overall game, that would be the one. He seems to go through phases where he finds a break and then throws some frames together, and you're saying maybe he's cured that weakness, but it is the consistency of the break. It's not at the same level as some of the really big breakers. Well, it's quite a frightening thought. If he did have a break like that, he'd be a very hard man to beat.
Red ball's in play.
Ryan knows he needs to get something going here. He's kind of hung on in this match, but he's always looked a bit like he's playing catch-up.
This is a really tough finish, you know, Mark. This isn't nice at all. You've got the two reds on the left side rail. You can develop the one that's next to the red, next to the yellow rather, by the middle pocket, because you can play a red off it, but it's an ugly finish, this, and no surprise to see Ryan draw back a little. I think he's trying to bait Ronan here. I suspect Ronan won't take said bait.
Yeah, although I don't think he's played that as well as he might have done, because he's now left Ronan the chance to play either the yellow straight to the middle or maybe able to get it off the red. He didn't quite have the space. Trying to play it into the yellow that was above the left middle pocket. Well, he has accepted the bait, or maybe not deliberately so, but it looks like Ryan's plan has worked out.
Yeah, I wonder if Ronan sort of saw that a little bit as a free go. Weighed up his options.
Yeah, I mean, anything other than going in off, if he just misses the cannon altogether, for example, it's not a terrible position. He can
Yeah,
bail
exactly.
out of it. That's the worst possible result, because now he's left Ryan in a position where he can get behind the one that was going to be hardest to land on.
That's not to say this frame's not fraught with difficulties, though. The one that he's closest to now is just a small pain because it doesn't go to what you'd consider its natural pocket. And where does this red move away to?
That always looked like the risk. I wondered if he'd be tempted to try and bump a ball up that end of the table and play it as a plant, because then he'd have been able to guarantee the pot and would have known where the ball was going. He'd have been quite lucky to leave that red in a possible position. I mean, it does go up the right rail, but it's just very disconnected now from everything else.
Well, there's a route to go, because, you know, you've got the one to the bottom right, but the shot you've got to play to make it all work is a hell of a shot, because obviously, well, it's on now. If you wanted it, you could.
Well, I think he's going to have to play the ball to the left middle, and then the bottom left, and then drop over to the right-hand cushion last, because his only hope really is that he plays it as the last ball and gets on the 8 ball. But he was never going to be able to get really close. He's going to be left with a horrible shot up the right rail.
Yeah, how do you like these?
Well, I will say he's got that as high up the table as you could have hoped to from where he is. It's not a nice position, but I think the fact he's got a bit more angle actually makes the pot a little bit easier than if he was dead straight behind it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to work the cue ball as hard. This is still a big, big shot. Oh, it's a big, big pot.
Yeah, a lot of people would have been tempted just to dribble that down and hope it fell in, but he properly potted that. That was a good finish in the end from Ryan Pisani. His break has been a little inconsistent so far. He's generally got good splits, but lost the white a couple of times. That time he's got a good white, but well, at least it's staying on the table, but hasn't potted any balls.
No, you can't strike it much better than this. That cue ball is perfect, really, for what Ryan's trying to do. I think he's pretty unlucky.
Yeah, he's going to feel pretty unlucky as well, because there was a great chance to get this match levelled up, and instead of that he's giving his opponent the chance to get on the hill.
Red ball's in.
It's not quite as straightforward as some of the earlier chances. Yeah, the red at the top of the table in the break area is not super accessible to its natural pocket. You can play it across the table into the other pocket, but then hard to get the cue ball back out of that area. Knew he was going to have the 2 balls to the left centre. Couldn't control that last shot quite as well as he wanted to, but actually opened that pocket up quite nicely. So now everything does have a pocket. It's just the one that's going to require short position furthest up top of table. Bad. He's landed on the ball to the top right corner. Could have used a roll or 2 more. So it's all about this shot. He's got quite a lot of angle here. I don't know if he can just drop in and play short position, or he may have to consider some kind of cannon to stop the white. Well, he has tried to play it dead slow, and he's played that really well. You saw from the fact that the red only just dropped, was trying to absolutely kill the cue ball, didn't want any excess pace on it. To follow up a great clearance from Ryan in the last frame, this has been excellent from Ronan. He's made it to look quite easy, but it's the kind of clearance a lot of players would have been out of position a shot or 2 into this.
And that's Ronan McCarthy. Touched on it earlier. You know, it's not easy to break and run a pool table. Sometimes it's easy, you know. Sometimes the splits dictate that your margin of error is pretty big.
You might well have suspected that this being the first day of a 3-day tournament, people would be sort of finding their feet and might not have been the most exciting afternoon of pool, but actually we've seen a lot of really good quality clearances.
Yeah, we have.
And a few moments of tension as well, deciding frame in the row whelan match.
Oh, ridiculous. Yeah, considering that was a group stage game where they'll both probably still be A-OK to qualify. That was a mad finish to that game. I believe it's been stuck up on the Ultimate Pool Facebook. If you were out at work maybe earlier on and didn't catch that, give that a watch, because, well, just don't tag John Rowe in the comments.
Yeah, I mean,
suffered enough.
Sort of a classic decider, wasn't it, where they both had a chance and whoever lost will end up going away pretty annoyed with it.
It's an incredible end to the match because they both left the arena, I think, absolutely sick at how how it finished.
Yeah, I'd say Chad Whelan did look delighted, and he was the winner.
Yeah, he'd made some big errors in that match towards the end.
He is quite tough on himself, though. He's somebody that doesn't.
Yeah, his standards are high.
Yeah, doesn't take anything other than a really top performance. That's what you have to do sometimes. Oh, someone that is putting up a really top performance so far is this man.
And I think as well for Ronan is related to that, his mentality is absolutely elite. You know, you never ever see him being hard on himself. Even if he is, you would never ever know about it.
Well, he's in a lovely position and a well-deserved one after 30+ years of playing this game at the top level, but he's kind of done everything in the game, so it's not like he's got a ton of pressure because he's missing a title or he wants to prove himself. It's almost like he can go out there and enjoy it, just play good quality pool. He's 2 balls away now from wrapping up this victory. Ronan Pisani's played his part in this match. I don't think he'll be unhappy with the level of play. He's just come up against somebody that's been really relentless.
It's been a super performance from Ronan McCarthy. He looks really good. And, you know, that's the world champion doing world champion things, playing at an elite level and looking very, very solid whilst doing so. Ryan Pisani played well in that match, but Ronan McCarthy took it away from him for a very, very solid result for the Northern Irishman. He marches on in his group, and we march on through the schedule tonight. Craig Waddingham up next.